Today's video, we are going to talk about how many campaigns should you use in your Google Ads account and overall Google Ads strategy for your business. This is a video I haven't seen anybody else cover yet, and I was half reluctant to even do this before in the past because it's like, I don't know how many people are even asking or requesting this type of information in general. However, thinking about it again, this clearly has a lot of importance in making the most from your Google Ads, and I'm going to explain why, of which, by the way, it helps you scale your overall ad spend and business a lot easier when you don't use one campaign for everything. So while Google wants you to constantly decrease the amount of campaigns that you have, as is Facebook and all these ad platforms want you to do less campaigns and give them more control, technically, if you have more campaigns, you'll actually have better results quicker because you're helping the algorithm that gets your results as well understand what to push more or less of quicker versus having a whole million variables of things that they can do and then having to go through all million variables. You could help it categorize things that's likely to do better than another category, and then as a result, it's going to learn quicker, which is why you want more than one campaign in your account for what you're doing. One PMAX campaign that does display and search and shopping and everything else, but also more than one search campaign on top of everything else as well. I'm going to explain why both of those things that people commonly do, you don't want to do. And then with that, what's the better way to doing things so you'll scale your ads quicker for your business, regardless of whether you're doing search campaign, shopping. I'm going to cover all the campaign types so you understand inside and out here what you should be doing from start to finish. So I am Corey Zyman, owner of Guaranteed PPC, a online advertising agency that specializes in guaranteeing clients results on different ad platforms that you can run ads on online. We do not charge our clients a fee until we get them a certain lift in profitability of their ads or a certain minimum profitability from their campaigns up front, which should tell you something about the quality of the information you're about to receive on this particular video. If you stay to the end of the video, I will give you actual case studies where you can see how much the information I'm sharing with you here will actually make you in terms of profit, where the rubber hits the actual road, taking a campaign that you have and splitting it up into more campaigns the way that I'm talking about here in terms of dollars and cents itself as well. With all that said, getting into the actual content here. Now, if you don't know, inside Google Ads, you can run many different types of campaigns now. When people think of, as they call it, pay-per-click, they think of Google Ads, which that's just one small part of how you can make money for your business online running ads. It's the way that everybody that doesn't run a big company thinks about advertising though, because it takes very little brain power and initiative to make money with it. At least at surface level, that is, person wants to buy XYZ, you sell XYZ, you show up in XYZ and you sell it to that person. There's no creativity or outside the box thinking that has to occur on how to seduce somebody who wasn't necessarily thinking on buying your product or service right then and there to buy from you. Where actually 90% of the other money you should be able to make in your market actually exists, is in the wooing part. But very few people understand how to do it. I talk about it all the time on this channel, that is run ads outside search engines to make money on Facebook and everything else. Not to say that Google Ads and search engines don't make money, but it's 10% of the money you could make or would make if you understood how to run ads on other platforms as well. People think Google Ads is just running ads on Google, and it's not. You got display campaigns, you got YouTube campaigns, you got demand gen campaigns, you got display campaigns, all of it. And all of them can help you make money, basically. You do a little here and find out the part of what you can do with this one campaign type will make you money, and then you add that to your arsenal. Then you do another campaign type. What can you get from that one? Then what can you get from this one? That's the way that you should be thinking about your business and scaling an ad campaign for your business profitably. Not to say you shouldn't start out running ads on Google, which you 90% of the time, as I've talked about many times on this channel, you should. But then when you go ahead and run other campaign types, yes, it's not going to be so straightforward, but again, there's more potential there because there's only so many people searching for your product or service on a monthly basis on Google. If you're going to make the big money, you got to figure out how to get in front of people who aren't quite ready to buy and sell to them too. The way that most people try to do it is through a PMAX campaign, which is supposed to be a combination of all the campaign types in general combined. Search, display, YouTube, demand gen, and then the PMAX combines them all, which the reason why Google's done PMAX and so that you can run all your different ads, campaign types in one campaign is because people are lazy, they know it, they don't want to work, and Google wants to make more money. So instead of asking, they know if they ask somebody to set up another campaign, that's way too much work. They'll just have the one campaign type, they'll hire people from India to spam your phone to ask you to turn on this one campaign type that does everything, and then voila, the money starts raining from the sky at Google, and they got to your wallet in as quick and easy as terms as possible. That's why they recommend PMAX so much. The reality is, this is not what's best for their customers or their advertisers. And it can't naturally be. How could it possibly what's good for Google is automatically the best for the customer? Usually they don't coincide like that. Google's gonna find a way that makes the most money for them. You're gonna do what's the most money for you. You gotta think for yourself and not just take what Google wants you to do and just do that automatically. It's like saying you're trying to ask the IRS for advice on how to file your taxes. That's beyond stupid. But for some reason, really, they're just too cheap to hire somebody to do their ads for them. So they just go and listen to what Google has to say. And Google's just laugh all the way to the bank on your apathy/stupidity, okay? So don't use PMAX to run your other campaign types. Of that, getting to the actual topic at hand here, how many campaigns should you run? So first of all, once you understand that if you are going to run search and a display campaign and YouTube campaigns and demand gen campaigns, you need to have separate campaigns. Don't use PMAX to run these other campaign types. PMAX I do still use, but I use it to run a more efficient shopping campaign, which I even forgot shopping here. PMAX/shopping, they're basically the same in my eyes. You use PMAX to run shopping ads, which it'll run a better version of a shopping ad than you can with a standalone shopping campaign in most instances. But running a PMAX campaign to run a demand gen campaign or a YouTube campaign is garbage. Don't even think about it, basically. There's no situation where you're going to get better results running the PMAX campaign to run a YouTube ad than you are going to be getting with the YouTube ad by itself. Once in a while, you'll run a regular shopping campaign instead of a PMAX campaign to run a shopping ad because you cannot get PMAX to work for your brand. But almost always, 95% plus of the time, PMAX is going to do better than a regular shopping campaign because it has more machine learning capabilities built in it and so forth. So with all that said, okay, I'm going to start with telling you how many campaigns you should have for your search campaign efforts, because most people are most interested in that. That applies to most business types and what most people want to do. Tell you how I would run that first up front for your business. In terms of the number of campaigns you want to get to millions of dollars a year in profits from your ads as quick as possible, which is what you really should be thinking about. The first way that you should think about and ask yourself and answer the question, how many search campaigns should I have? First thing you want to do, and it doesn't matter if you're a local, national, international business, you need to be breaking your different campaigns down for different locations. If you're a local business, you want to have at least any city over 50K in population have its own campaign. Why? Because each location is going to perform differently, yes, but you want to have the capability to put the location in the ad. So if they're in Long Beach, you have Long Beach in your ad, not LA, which is Long Beach is in LA County. Why? Because your click-through rate's going to be much higher and you're going to make much more money doing that. So that's something you should be doing right up front. If you have a national service, let's say, you should still have a campaign for each state in the US, if you're assuming you're marketing to the US. Why? Because you have higher click-through rates having the name of the state in the ad. I don't care if you have a location in that state or not. It doesn't matter. If you are a speaker and you put best sales speaker in Minnesota, when somebody's from Minnesota and they see that ad next to ads that don't say Minnesota on it, they're going to click your ad at a much higher rate every single time. This is just human nature and psychology at work. If you want a way to make money with ads, find ways that universally will help your user make a decision easier and quicker, and you'll always make more money. That's just one of them. If you're an international business, you absolutely want different campaigns for each country. Why? Because they perform so much differently than one another. Canada performs a lot different than the UK. UK performs much different than Australia. Australia performs much better than Belgium, and on and on and on. Once in a while, we'll break it up, so we'll do one campaign for Europe, one campaign for Asia, one campaign for Australia, whatever like that. So this isn't a hard and fast rule, but to use one campaign for the entire world, even if you can actually put the different countries separated out in your campaign so you can see the performance for each country individually, that's better than nothing, but you're still going to get to scale quicker by having different campaigns for each country. Why? Because the algorithm, going back to what I was saying before, is going to understand how to scale a campaign for each country separately. Then you're going to be able to scale it with everything combined in one big lump sum. So that what you'll find is Canada's doing better than UK. So on Canada, you'll raise the budget a little bit quicker than you will in UK. And then of course, you'll find this country over here is doing really shitty. So you shouldn't raise the budget on that at all at the current time. You also will set certain ROI/ROAS targets, cost per lead targets by country, given it's so much harder or easier to get to a certain return in one country over another, at least in the beginning. Eventually, long term, you want the same ROAS or cost per lead target pretty much everywhere once the campaigns have had a long time to kind of mature. Even then, if you're talking about lead generation, closing rate on the leads are going to vary a lot based upon location. And so with that, you want to be able to pay a different cost per lead per country to really maximize the return you're getting. But the main reason why you do this is because different countries are going to get better quicker. And you want the ability to where you say, because the best way to scale a business is to understand that I'm going to spend, I know I need $10 in sales revenue at my company for every dollar in ad spend we spend to be viable. And I'm going to try to spend 10%, and we're there. Let's say we're there right now. I'm going to try to spend 10% more on our ads and get 10% overall more lift in our overall company sales. And until we do, I'm going to optimize that increased overall ad budget for our business. And with that, when you try to deploy that extra 10%, you want to be able to deploy it to the country that it makes the most sense, that's getting the best return and is likely to take that 10% and get you the quickest return on your investment. If you have one campaign that targets all the countries, you don't have the ability to do that like you could otherwise. So that's the main reason why you're going to have different campaigns for each country. I could go into more details on this. Ultimately, this video would go on forever if I did. If you have any questions about the location, targeting, and then having different campaigns for each location, let me know in the comment section. I get back to every single person who leaves me a question or comment on this channel. So once you've got that done, now there's going to be an additional layer, if you want to scale as quickly as you can, for the funnel stage that you're at. Instead of taking all your keywords and ramming them in one campaign, which is dumb again, you separate your campaign, your keywords, into several groups. One group of which should always be the buyer searches. If you're an accountancy service, you need to be having one campaign that just has the buyer searches. Accountancy near me, CPA near me, accountant service near me, accountant agencies near me. Very specific buying searches. Then you have a separate campaign that is for each location that you're targeting here still to add to what I was just saying before. That is info searches. So if they're being ambiguous as to what they're searching for, such as basically CPA, or they just type that by itself, or if they type in CPA tax person. It's a little bit ambiguous as to whether they want to hire somebody or not. There's a certain percentage of them that search for that specific keyword that do versus don't. So you're going to put those in their own campaign. Why? Because they're going to convert so much differently than the other group. And that's what this is about. Anytime when you see that something's going to convert wildly different than another thing, you want to have it in a separate campaign so you have more control over your investment. So what you ultimately will have is like, if you have, let's say, you're targeting LA, going back to that Long Beach example, your campaign name should be like Long Beach buying search, Long Beach info search is what I call it. Like it's kind of like in between a buying search and non-buying search. And then we'll have another campaign, if we want to get the absolute most we can, Long Beach searching for a solution or solution keywords. Somebody's typing in how to deal with a tax problem. Or if they're typing in, I haven't filed my taxes recently, what should I do? Something like where they're not even, it's for sure they're clear they're not trying to hire somebody, but they have a problem that your company can fix with the solution you're providing. You take all those keywords and put it in its own campaign so you could target those individually because they're going to convert differently on their own. You will probably have to have a different offer for that grouping of keywords to get them to respond. Most people, the reason why they don't target keywords like that is because they think, they try to have an ad that pitches a service directly to them, nobody buys, and they're like, oh, that keyword doesn't work. No, you just need to have a different approach. Ultimately, that's what doing business is like. If somebody's looking for information on, I haven't filed my taxes for a while, what should I do? And you send them to a really good resource, and then with that, you say, the best thing to do is to take a 15-minute consultation with somebody who deals with back tax filings and has a relationship with the IRS and whatever. Click this box in order to take the offer or whatever. Or send them to a landing page with an ebook that says how to fix your back tax problem every time, no matter how much you haven't paid, and pay 10% of what you think you owe right now. And then take that lead and then sell to them after having a conversation with them over the phone because you got their phone number through the request in the ebook and the form there. That's typically what we'll do there. And so you get a lot more sales that way because you're going after people that, frankly, most of your competitors don't give a rat's ass about. Therefore, you have no competition and it's just easy pickings. But what people don't think it's easy because they aren't ready to buy right now. And their approach to get them to buy right now didn't work. So it's not easy when actually it is. It's actually just as easy or easier to go after those people. With that said, you put those into its own separate campaign. Then from there, this is all assuming that you target exact or phrase match keywords, which you should always do up front until you've gotten every dollar of value out of those people already. You can consider running broad match. Why? Because broad match sucks. It runs way too broad. However, in some cases, we've got every opportunity we can. We've got it. We can't scale the sales anymore. What do we do now? We want to keep making more money. What can we do? Well, one of your options always is, let's run broad match. But running broad match, like Google is going to suggest you do, what you stick it in the campaigns you have, is plain retarded. Don't do that because broad match performs so much wildly different than phrase and exact match that you don't want to do that. You want to separate the broad match by itself into a whole separate campaign so you can put a tight leash on that campaign. Anything you do new in your account that you're trying out that you know probably isn't going to work for a long time, you put into its own separate campaign so you can put a hard limit on what it can spend. And that hard limit for us is generally going to be 10% of what we're spending that we know doesn't make money for months and months and months, so that we eventually will be able to add some to our top line. And then once that's working, we try another 10% thing, and you're always trying to go after the next lowest hanging fruit. So one of the opportunities can be just running the same keywords you're running already now. With broad match, let the algorithm find customers using the broad match keywords and smart bidding in combination, and it'll slowly find customers via searches you would have never in your wildest dreams thought of adding, because that's the main value of broad match. But you don't need to be doing that until you've got the obvious keywords and the obvious searches, and you've got all the value you can out of that at the current time. The broad match will get its own separate campaign. So of the 3 campaigns you set up here, you go ahead and set up a version for broad match by itself, keep the daily budget low, until your cost per lead or ROI is where it needs to be, you keep it low. Then you start scaling it up. That right there is the process that we'll typically have for a search campaign in terms of breaking it all out, separating it all out. And if you, like I said, the golden rule is if you can imagine some category of what you're doing converting at least 25% better than the rest or 25% worse than the rest, you should break that into its own separate grouping so you have more control over your investment when you're scaling up your sales and you're looking for the next boost in your sales and you have 25% more to throw at the ad budget in your ad account. You know the best place to throw it, like I was saying before. Okay, got it? So moving forward here, when we're talking about display campaigns, that is running ads on the millions of websites that you have access to through the Google Display Network, banner ads and text ads on different websites that your prospective customers could go to, whether they're on weather.com, they're on a forum, whether they're on CNN.com, whatever they're going to. With that, okay, number of campaigns we're going to have for that to scale our profits from Google Ads as much as possible. We're first going to have the location layer. So we'll have one, just like I was saying before in terms of locations, you'll do the same thing all over again, different campaigns for different cities, /states, /countries for the same reasons as before. Then you're going to go ahead and add a layer different campaigns for the funnel stage, okay? Which is similar to what I was talking about before. Basically, the closer the person is to make a decision to purchase, the more likely they are to buy from you and the less money it will take to get them as a customer. You may be able to market to someone who's way up here, way far away from making a purchase, and it's profitable, but maybe you won't. What you do is you start with the low-hanging fruit, the people that are the closest to making a purchase, then you spend the money there to go after people that are kind of like close but not that close. Then you use that to see if you can get people farthest away from a purchase. And the way that you do that, the way that I recommend you do it, the way that I do it, is you're going to create one display campaign targeting content related. That is, if I'm selling life insurance, I'm going to target any website on the display network about life insurance, buying life insurance, and the like. Hand selecting pages on the display network to run my banner ads. That will get you the cheapest cost per lead, so you separate that out. Then you're going to target people, once you've got all the value there, have a separate campaign structure for people who have recently searched for a life insurance related keyword on Google, which you can do through custom intent audiences. And that is even broken into different campaigns. You're gonna have the buying searches. So if they typed in life insurance companies, life insurance agencies, and the like in the recent past, you'll have your banner ad show up for them. So just to clarify, your ad can show up for somebody who searched for life insurance, but not necessarily on a page for life insurance. It's just can show up on any page that the person's on as long as they've searched for life insurance company or agency or whatever in the recent past. You get all you can from that. Then you have a separate campaign targeting people who are info searchers. Should I buy life insurance? How much is life insurance? If they made a search like that, that's not a buying search, but clearly shows that a good chunk of those people making a search like that are going to be buying life insurance in the near future. Then you're going to target them with a separate display campaign. Why? Because it's going to convert significantly differently. And as I scale my ad budget up at my company, I want to put it towards the buying searches first, if I can. If this isn't scaling anymore, then I'll go and put it towards the info searches. Then once that doesn't produce any sales for me, then I can have a separate campaign, which I've got 2 arrows here on accident. I meant 1. You're going to target the perfect candidate. In addition to people making a relevant search on Google in the recent past, you can make this even more refined. You can say, sometimes Google gives you some of this data for free in the insights of your Google Ads account, and then also in your Google Analytics 4 account. And if not, sometimes they're stingy with the data. You can go to a data expansion company like Axicom, and you provide them your customer list, and you say, tell me everything you can about our customers, who they are, what they like, what they don't like, whatever. And once you find that out, then you can add that as additional. You can create a custom audience in your account, combining, you could say if they've searched for a life insurance company in the past, they are somebody with a family, they have kids, they live in a house versus an apartment. The person, top 10% of income demographic. You can have your display ad show up for them, okay? Versus they've made a search about life insurance in the past by itself. I call that the perfect candidate. You have to get the data. And what we'll generally do with this is we'll have 2 separate campaigns. If they made a buying search and they look like our perfect candidate, we'll have that in one separate campaign. If they made an info search and they look like a perfect candidate in combination, we'll have that in another campaign. So we'll have 4 display campaigns altogether if you're counting here. All of which these 4 campaigns are going to convert differently from one another. If you need a $30 cost per conversion, you can actually see if you're going to get it. And you'll get more overall $30 cost per conversions because you're being more granular about what you're doing. If you group everything together, it'll be way slower to scale those $30 cost per conversions for yourself because the algorithm's not going to be smart enough to mute parts of what you're doing efficiently and scale up parts of what you're doing because it doesn't you're helping it figure out faster what it would ultimately figure out if you gave it enough money and trial and error, so to say. Anyway, with that said, that is what we're going to have for the display campaign. Now, on top of that, you're also going to have remarketing here. Anytime you run an ad campaign, you should be running remarketing as well because of something called the power of 7s in marketing that says you will make more money every time, basically speaking, except for emergency services, marketing to fewer people more times, but more versus more people, but only once each. And this isn't to be disputed. This is basic psychology. All kinds of people will try to disagree. They really don't understand human psychology and marketing, and they know how to run PPC ads, but they don't know about marketing psychology. You got to know about both to be an effective marketer. Just knowing how to punch the buttons on your screen doesn't do almost anything to make you millions of dollars with what you're doing and trying to run an ad, scale ads successfully for your business. With that said, 10% of your budget, roughly speaking, is just to go to follow-up, to close the deal on people that you know are in market for what you're selling, but they need to be touched a few more times in order to get them the rest of the way to a purchase. In the remarketing, we'll usually have one campaign for people who got into the site, maybe that had to spend 2 minutes on the site, but at least just got to the site, but haven't got to the shopping cart. Then we'll have one campaign targeting people who just got to the shopping cart. Then we'll have another campaign, not always, but in a lot of cases, if people can buy more than once, we'll have another campaign just for people who already bought. And the main reason for this is not just because they convert wildly different from each other, which they do, so it'll help us scale more productively. We'll be able to have one offer for one versus another versus another. The one offer can focus on, if they haven't got to the cart before, we're selling them on why they should buy. Reviews, testimonials, guarantees, telling why we're better than the competitor. If they got to the cart, we're past that. It's just, we got to get them shake them off the fence. Here's an incentive to finish your purchase right now. You get 20% if you go ahead and purchase within the next 2 hours. Boom. Then for people who've already bought, then they know and like and trust us already. We're going to have a customer appreciation sale to make them feel even more special, to get them to buy again at a higher rate than they would buy on their own without no ads run into them at all. That will help us scale the best way possible. So that's going on in the back end. And then what you're doing on the front end is try to identify people who are soon to be buying from your market and do whatever you can with these other campaigns to get them to your site until they're ready to buy. That's the sales funnel. That's tried and true and proven, and we've used dozens of times at our ad agency before in the past for clients. So if you want to know how guaranteed PPC does her things, that's it right there. Some businesses, display ads, I will admit, don't work the best. There's some things like a nut or a bolt, this isn't going to work very well, so you shouldn't do it. But if you're selling teeth whitening solution, this is ultra important because almost everybody does some level of research before they buy. They don't buy the same exact minute that they start to do the research, obviously. So who gets the most sales is the person who's best utilizes the time from the time that the person starts their journey to buy and the time that they actually buy, which a lot of times that's weeks because they have to wait to get paid, whatever. People procrastinate, and you have to have a system to get them in the door and then market to them so they're more and more and more confident, and then also do other things to get them to build urgency so they'll quit procrastinating. And then from there, you obviously have to do more to get them to buy again and again and again, because if you don't do that, you can't pay very much to get a customer in the first place, and then you're priced out of getting the ad space to get them as a customer in the first place. I'm getting a bit off track here. I just want you to know that if you're going to make the other 90% of what you're making in any market where people do considerable research before they buy, you got to learn how to do what I just told you to do. And then if it works there, you do it on YouTube, you do it on demand gen campaigns, which gets you on YouTube and Gmail. Of which, by the way, just to clarify, you're going to typically start out with YouTube first and demand gen first because there's less bot traffic there. And then if it works there, then finally do display last. But that's how you're going to separate the campaigns out to get the most out of what you're doing in the most efficient way. Okay? Does that make sense? If you need somebody to set up these campaign structures, by the way, and hold your hand through the process. This is what we do for clients that are firm. You can reach out to me at guaranteedppc.com. I'd be happy to have a conversation with you about it. We also sell ad templates. If we've already done what you're doing in a different geographic area, you can literally buy from us the winning ads, landing pages, all of it that work for your niche market already, and just copy paste that all into your account and get the same results we are. We've got people that use these templates to start whole other businesses, and it's been very popular here, which is why I keep bringing this up on this channel. You know, people that wanted to get into e-commerce but weren't sure how to do it or weren't successful, they started out using our template to sell a commodity item they could get from China, and they were finally successful. Or they started generating leads for people and sell those leads to other people because the templates we have already can get a certain lead cost that they know that they can sell leads in the market for that cost. Anyway, we've had several people do that as well. It's the closest thing to having a business in a box as possible. Once you figure out how to sell, the rest of it falls into place because you can hire competent people to build your operations. So it practically is a turnkey business. But anyway, if you're interested in any of those other opportunities, you can reach out to me at guaranteedppc.com and I'd be happy to have a conversation with you about it. Getting into the rest of this though, I wanted to say that regardless if you're doing display, YouTube, demand gen campaigns, the structure I talked about for the display side of things, that's how you're going to break out your campaigns to help you scale to millions of dollars a year in sales profitably for your business out of anything else I know. And I've set up hundreds of accounts. And this is the best way I found after setting up hundreds of accounts. Okay. Finally, you got PMAX and display as the last thing. Now, with this, a lot of this is just regurgitated stuff of what I've already mentioned. But with that, you're always going to break out that by location. Okay. When I say location, I'm not saying by state. Some cases it could be by state, certainly. Depends on if it's a business that people are going to go locally to pick up the product. But otherwise, you're going to do by country. Why? Because each country could perform so wildly different from each other. It'll be much easier to scale if you set up a separate campaign for each country that you're targeting. Then you're going to target by product category. A lot of people will set up different PMAX campaigns / shopping campaigns for each product category that they sell, and they don't need to. The kind of the cutoff point where you should decide I should have one PMAX campaign for selling all our products, multiple PMAX campaigns to sell the different products we have, comes down to this. What you sell is wildly different. That is, if you sell couches and kitchen tables and beds and mattresses, in that situation, have different PMAX campaigns for each product category. So all the beds go into one, all the kitchen tables go into another. Why? Because the buyer who buys a kitchen table is so much different than the person who buys a mattress. Practically speaking, you want the algorithm, you help the algorithm understand like, hey, somebody who buys a table, they all look kind of the same. So I want you to pick up what they are that makes them unique so that when you show the ads in the future, you are able to narrow down more effectively who the table buyer is, which is very different than the bed buyer. If all the products are kind of the same, such as if you're selling, firecrackers and you have one brand of firecracker, Black Cat, and then one is, Thunder, whatever. I'm trying to remember from the days that we used to light firecrackers off here, but you shouldn't put that into separate campaigns, one for each brand. Why? Because the buyers are very similar. So the machine learning, what it does is it understands how to figure out who's a buyer and who's not a buyer. And a lot of that comes down to prior behavior, search behavior, websites that they've visited, that kind of thing. And the overlap between one buyer of one brand versus another is going to be so similar. You're not going to stand to gain anything by telling the system, look at one buyer versus another totally separately, if you will. Not to say that there isn't things to learn, one brand versus another. But you got to ask yourself, is the people who buy from me that much different from one another? If you're selling pond supplies, yes, the pond supplies are all very different, are all pretty much going to have the same traits. Then you don't need to separate all of your products into separate PMAX campaigns. You have one PMAX campaign for everything because it's going to, on the flip side, it's going to concentrate all the learnings into one campaign versus water it down across all the other campaigns. But when they're so different from one another, which you should question why you're selling stuff that's the buyers are totally different from one another, by the way. But if that's the case, like in the example I gave you before, consider breaking it down by category, okay? Because you could really help yourself out. In many cases doing that, it'll help you scale. You can understand what the ROI is by product category. And then when you have more money to dump in, you can put it towards the categories that are doing the best at the given time. Until you hit a bottleneck with it, then you'll have to be forced to go after and spend more on some of the other categories, if you will. So if you haven't subscribed to this channel, you absolutely should, because all the information I'm sharing here, I go into detail on all these points on my other videos. And the information I'm sharing comes from somebody who spends 40 hours a week doing ad testing and strategy by itself at our firm for our dozens of clients, and give you the free working information about what works and what doesn't work running ads for any online business, basically. Which is unique because most of the other information you're going to find on YouTube and online about how to run ads successfully and in terms of strategy is coming from bozos who run a couple campaigns, or they don't run any campaigns at all. They're pretending like they are to sell a course. It's basically mostly all, and they just prey on people, not because they're novices, they don't understand who they're learning from, don't actually have any real experience, because it's not hard to fool somebody with no experience and pretend like you're an expert. So if you're going to pay attention to anything, subscribe to this channel at the very least. You should also check out my blog that I also have over my site at guaranteedppc.com/blog. The blog has actually even better information, Specifically, the strategies we use to guarantee results for our clients at our firm are all laid out there in detail with step-by-step instructions, with screenshots. You definitely should check that out as well if you like the channel and the content on this channel at all whatsoever. With that said, okay, to sum this up, don't use one certain single campaign for your business unless what you're doing is very refined. That is, you're offering one specific service to one specific small area, and that's it. And then you could get by with one truly. But if you're doing something even halfway broad, you're almost always going to do better to get to $1 million a year in sales, having separate campaigns for the different kind of categories that I mentioned on this particular video. Just to give you, I mentioned if you watch to the end of the video, I'd have a case study for you. The biggest difference in results we're going to get by breaking things out at this level is going to be for local services. Even though for every other business type, it's going to help you get more results. We had an HVAC company that does, like AC repair, heater repair, and so forth. The client had one campaign when we started out. We broke the campaigns out into having AC installation, AC repair, which I didn't even talk about doing it at this level, which is why I told you if things are, you kind of have to a little bit think for yourself. But what we did is we understood that people that are searching for repair versus a new installation are very different. So we should actually break those out. And mainly for the reason that, like I was talking about earlier, the value per sale is so much different for a repair customer versus an installation customer. We broke those out, and then we can identify then what we can pay per lead for each one separately, so which we did. Then on top of it, we went ahead and we created separate campaigns for each city over 50K in population in the metro area that we serviced. On top of it, okay, just with doing that alone, okay, we were able to generate at the cost per lead that the client needed, which is right around $90 per lead. In the first 3 months of running this campaign, once we introduce the new campaigns in there, what we do is we build new campaigns, we add them to the account to run them side by side with the old campaigns. Why? Because new campaigns need time to kind of get seasoned if you don't want the results to go down before they go up. We went from around 100 leads a month to 300 leads a month just by having the ability to have this user city in the ad each time, and to understand where we can pay a lot more for a lead versus another type of lead that is worth a lot less to our business. So we basically tripled the amount of money that we were able to make, given that we can only pay so much for a lead at our business, but understanding where we could pay $250 for a lead versus paying $90 for a lead, of the difference in value in one lead type versus another. Everybody wants to see the name of their city on the ad. They truly do. Furthermore, they wanted to see the city name on the landing page right when they get there. So if they're in Long Beach, they want to see Long Beach on the ad, Long Beach on the landing page. Separating the campaigns out for your business literally can mean the difference between what you have now and tripling it just by doing the one simple thing that I'm telling you here. And if you're talking about a product company, it's just as powerful because, or should I say, especially when you get into doing display. But even if you were just to make your search campaign more effective, we had sold water filters. We broke out all the terms like, do I need a water filter? How to get rid of fluoride in water? All of this stuff, broke up all the campaigns. We made way more sales doing that. Why? Because, like I told you before, you need to tailor your pitch based upon what people are searching for, not just go at them, hey, buy this water filter now, and that's it. So that if somebody's looking how to get rid of fluoride in water, say, number one way to get rid of fluoride out of water, stop your search or continue your search until you've read this. And have an offer like that. Client was bottlenecked for months and months and months on the amount of sales that they get from this Google Ads account that they had before we started. We were able to double it in a year from the time that we started, introducing these new campaigns, breaking out and having new keywords they weren't targeting. And then of the keywords that we were targeting, make sure that they're not triggered by the ads that they had already. So there's a clear separation between buyer searches and info searches and whatnot. And we were able to scale our sales twice as much at the ROI that we needed to scale at just by having different campaigns that targeted some of these fringe terms. We also had separate campaigns to target competitor terms as well. There's a certain amount of value to the competitor searches, but when you group the competitor searches all with the regular keywords, it's really hard then to optimize things because the traffic from the competitors as a whole behaves a lot different than somebody searching for water filters for sale. With that, well, like I said, you should put anything that converts significantly different as a group in its own campaign, so that when you go ahead and you spend the next 10% or 20% on ads, that it goes to the part of the account that actually is producing the best return for you at the time. Okay? Whereas they didn't target the competitor keywords separately and the info terms separately. We targeted them separately and we were able to scale. And that's what you want to do. And this isn't rocket science. You just have to understand what the buyer wants and give them what they want. A lot of times it's just assurance that your product will do what they need and what their specific pain problem or pain point is, and explaining that to them, not just be like, water filter, buy now. And that's all you can say like a robot, okay? So anyway, with that said, I'll wrap it up with that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Remember when I said display campaigns was important during this video? Well, this video here tells you how to do it.